Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Hey everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 508 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited about sharing today's interview with you. It's a conversation I had with Chris Ashford of What Records. Now, there's a question mark on the end of that, so it should be What Records or What Records. That's probably the way to say it. Chris Ashford of What Records. Now, Chris started What Records in 1977 solely to put out the music of his friend's band. He hung out with a group of people. Two of them turned out to be who we know today as Pat Smear and Darby Crash. And the band that they were forming at the time was the Germs. And just as the Germs were learning their musical instruments, Chris was figuring out how to make and sell records and learning all the tough lessons along the way. Now, the very first Germs single is Forming, and that story is an adventure unto itself, which Chris shares today. We discuss the very first pressing, the true mono version of the single, of which only a handful survive today. We talk about the cover art, the insert, the reissues, other singles of What Records, including the Dill's I Hate the Rich, the strange cover, which looks like it says The Oils. We talk about the rare test pressings and more. Plus, and I have to tell you this, I have to share, we have a super extended version of this interview up on our Patreon page, patreon.com/vinyl guide. And you go there, you sign up, and you get a lot more of this conversation, including Chris telling stories of the early LA punk scene when Darby and Pat met Iggy Pop and James Williamson. He talks about working with the Gears and Hawkwind and more. And I got to tell you, Chris is an absolutely lovely dude. He's contributed so much to the music scene in ways that most may not understand or even be aware of. But make no mistake, Chris and What Records made a huge impact, and we are still very grateful for that. Again, there's a super extended version up at patreon.com/vinyl guide. Head up there now, help support the show. You get an extra 30 minutes of this interview, and you get to help me buy a burrito. Now, what could be better than that? Oh, and the last thing before we start the interview, I got to give a shout out to two people who were huge in helping make this conversation happen. A big thanks to Mark Aravello, my brother in music nerdery in Los Angeles, for introducing me to Chris and helping make this conversation happen. Also, a special shout out to my friend Jay at OTH Punk, who let me hold these Germs True Mono records, take pictures of these amazing rarities that you see in the episode art. What you see in those pictures are the original true mono copies, and they're actually signed by Darby, Pat, and Lorna. So check them out. Fascinating bits of history there. Jay, Mark, thank you so much, guys. Alrighty, enough already. Let's get on the horn with Chris Ashford and talk about the germination of What Records? This week on the Vinyl Guide, we're very pleased to have with us Mr. Chris Ashford of What Records, Iloki Records, a few other entities in your background, and a bit of a record nerd as well, as I understand.
Oh, I have a few in my collection.
Just a few?
Oh, in the thousands.
In the thousands. That's good. Okay. Is it 5 digits or 4 digits, thousands?
It's 5.
5. Okay. All right. And you've been now we're going to talk all about What Records and some of the releases there. I'm fascinated by What Records. What Records reminds me of John Cazale. Do you know John Cazale, Chris? The actor.
No.
Yeah, he played Fredo in Godfather. John Cazale played in 5 movies: Godfather, Godfather 2, The Conversation, The Deer Hunter, and Dog Day Afternoon, and then died. So he had 5. Everything he did was brilliant, and then he disappeared. And that reminds me a bit of What Records.
Well, that's kind of a interesting. I don't know quite the right word for it, but you get the idea.
Look, it's a genuine compliment. So you started What Records? It's a bit of a story leading up to that.
Okay. Well, do you want me to kind of lead you in here?
Please.
I can do that. I had a couple friends named George and Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Later, George became Pat Smear. Paul became Darby Crash. And we all hung out, and the beginnings of the Germs were starting to happen. And so I was always fascinated with record labels. I had worked in record stores through high school, and I just sort of thought, well, they're going to do the band, I'll do a label.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? See what I can get into.
So you were with them. They were forming the band and seemingly learning their instruments or learning how they're going to do it, but you didn't have the desire to pick up an instrument.
Well, I I noodle on the guitar some, but I had attention span disorder, shall we say? So I just didn't do it, I guess. And I had it over the years. I've had to train my ear. I didn't hear like I couldn't tune a guitar by myself. I needed a tuner, and so it wasn't an easy move, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
But there's always that kid in you who always wanted to play. But I decided to take the other end of the spectrum.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So you knew your lane early on. Did you have any education or any thought about how to make a record at the time?
No, I
Ah.
actually learned how to press it through Richard Foos from Rhino Records. And he told me where he was pressing their early singles, which was a plant called Monarch that was in LA. Let's just say LA without getting specific. And I don't remember who told me who to make the sleeve, but I figured that one out. And we totally did this completely in the garage. It was a 2-track quarter-inch deck with two microphones, and
Mhm.
and we just recorded in the garage. Really no equalization until it got mastered.
So that was the single that became Forming.
Correct.
Were there other songs that were in play and Forming was the best of the lot, or how did you conclude that Forming was the song to lead with?
Well, we had decided on Forming, and there was multiple takes of it, which somewhere along the line we decided to erase many, 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 many years ago. So
Ooh.
when I went back to the tape, I thought, is it still there? But it wasn't. So, and the B side was a little cassette recording from the Cheech and Chong movie when they auditioned for, Up in Smoke. So that was just sitting on a table, and we, edited that. And so we had the A side, which was, the one take, and we had the cassette that we did the B side of the record.
So I want to dive into this a little bit more because we go a little bit level deeper here. So with the tape, you still have the master tape. It sounds like the from the 2-track.
Actually, I do not. It's gone.
It exists somewhere. It's just not in your possession.
I think it exists, but it may not. That tape was pretty old.
Okay. All
It's
right.
possible that it's possible a collector got hold of it somehow, but I I have all rights to it, so they
Okay.
can't do anything with it.
Okay. But do you know where it's at? Did it go somewhere in?
No,
Okay. All right. It just
I rumored they heard it went to Canada, but I don't know.
okay. So there wasn't a second song for the B side. So you guys used a live tape. Again, we'll talk about that Cheech and Chong bit, but so I'm curious, there wasn't a second song picked out?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Was there a discussion about that? Do you recall?
Uh, at my age, I don't remember.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay. All right. So they used this tape. Now, the Cheech and Chong, this is the Up in Smoke, the Battle of the Bands scene.
Right, where
Uh,
the Dills made it in, and the
yep.
Germs didn't.
Right. Okay. And the Germs. Now, have you seen the video of Germs' performance on that day?
I believe I saw it a long time ago, but I don't remember it.
Okay. Right now, it is in the Punk Rock Museum. It's
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's on a loop, and Lou Adler actually gave Fat Mike a copy of this video, with the agreement, with the understanding it would go nowhere else except the Punk Rock Museum. So it's on a loop on a screen if you want to go
Nice.
and relive it. So when we go to the Punk Rock Museum and we see that that video of Germs playing on the Up in Smoke Roxy set, that is actually the version of Sex Boy that is on the backside of Forming.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
But we didn't want to tell anybody back in those days because we didn't know if we were going to get sued.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. All right. Did you ever understand or hear the story of why the Germs weren't included in the movie?
No, I do not know.
Okay. All right. This is another thing from Lou Adler. He said while he was cutting the movie together, he looked at the different bands. And when he saw the Germs performance, he thought he shouldn't include them in the movie because moviegoers wouldn't believe that Germs were an actual band.
I can see that coming from his point of view.
So you were at that Up in Smoke taping?
I was not because I was holding a job in those days and I had to work that day.
Oh,
I missed a few key things around those times because I had to keep my job or I couldn't pay for any of the stuff.
So you were the person 100% financing, Forming, and the various singles coming out?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so Forming was made. You went to Monarch Press.
Monarch was the press, and
you-
a place called Bertco was the people that made the sleeve.
Okay. Now,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
The sleeve for Forming, was that complete in its form? Because I always saw the black spot on the back, the black rectangle. Is that would have been a place where maybe a picture would have been? Is that? Or,
No, we wanted to be ambiguous.
okay. All right.
A little tongue in cheek.
Got it.
Because, the Germs are kind of an evolving thing. And back then there was a little more tongue in cheek to their stuff. And then it got a little more serious down the line. So there was a lot of tongue in cheek that was put into some of this.
Okay.
That was like, oh, here's the band photos. Oh, they're not there.
Okay. And that address on Kenfield, was that your home?
That was my parents' address. Yes. Where I lived at the time.
How much mail did you get there?
Actually, nothing. Because I moved it over to a P.O. box pretty soon and I took the address off. So nobody, they weren't, people, they weren't rabid about them enough because we were all very visible around the scene. So nobody really had to send mail there.
Right. Okay. All right. So you didn't have any weirdness happen because of the record.
Yeah, that's why I took it off. I thought, no, this could be interesting.
I don't need my mom getting involved in this community.
Right.
So now the first pressing of Forming, as I understand, it was the true mono press, but there's an issue with that. Can you talk us through that?
Easily. Not being real slick on making the label copy, it actually was a mono because if you listen to the record, the vocals is full one side and the music's full the other side. And then later things, when I put it on compilations, I actually squeezed it up a little so it wasn't full left and right. So it wasn't true mono. And also the pressing that did come out that had those labels, the Monarch decided to put the labels on the wrong side. So the B-side label was on the A, the A-side was on the B. And as soon as we figured that out, I had to go get it repressed.
So
and then I made the corrections on the labels.
Okay, that was the issue then. They had the wrong label on the wrong side.
Yeah, that was the actual issue. A little lie never hurt with true mono, but
that's good because at least we could now designate when one is seen in the wild. Now, I understand 1,000 were made and almost the entire run was destroyed. What do you remember about that?
As soon as I had them repressed, the few that got out, there was only one in one store that had them, and then of course the band had a few. I took all the other ones, took all the records out of the sleeves and put the new ones in. So there was probably 800 or 900 of them unsleeved at some point. And probably 6 or 7 of those, we played Frisbee over a hill.
Of course.
'Cause, um, you got to put this in context.
Mm-hmm.
No, none of us thought really anything was going to happen with this. So it didn't mean anything to save it. So we were destructive. What could I say?
I totally get it. Can you tell me which hill and approximate address? I mean,
Well, it was on Kenfield. There was this part of the hill where houses had gone down the hill years before, and so there was all this sort of wilderness until you got way down the hill to a street below, and we just
oh my goodness. Well,
I could say we. I wish I could say we skeet shot them somewhere, but
so you threw a few, kind of had fun with them. What happened to the bulk of the 800 or 900 that you unsleeved?
well, that's what I'm saying. About 6 or 700 of them went over that hill.
Oh, 600 or 700. Oh, I thought you meant 6 or 7. Okay, 6 or 700. Okay. Dear,
We got a field day,
oh, geez. Okay.
and the rest of them, they took some, and took the shows and threw them around and whatever.
Yeah, there was a show, I don't know, was it The Mask, where they threw a bunch of them in the audience?
I think actually the Starwood was one of the places they weren't playing, but they threw them around in the audience and stuff.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I've actually, I know a collector in Los Angeles, and I've actually held some of those exact ones in my hand. He wouldn't let them any further. Do you have any of those? Do you have any of the test pressings or anything still in your collection?
No test pressings. I may have the flip labels one. I may have one because once again, back in the day, the thought was we're going to sell as many of these things as we can. Now, I mean, obviously not the ones we destroyed,
Right.
but because I wanted to get my money back.
Yeah.
Simple, easy. Didn't know if we were ever going to do it, and obviously I did. But so I didn't really hold on to anything back in those days,
Mm-hmm.
which is, kind of a scary thing because well, how come you didn't put a box away? And it's like, I wanted the money from most of the box.
Yeah. 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 And by the way, I was in a band in high school, and we put out a record, and all of us ended up with these boxes of extra records, and they were a pain in the ass to haul around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
And they can't be in the heat. They can't be stored a certain way.
yeah. And there comes a time where you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to take it to the dump. And then years later, it's worth something that's substantial. And oh well, that's just the way. What did you and the band think the record would do for Germs?
We were kind of looking at it as to legitimize the Germs in a certain way. That if they had a record, they were, it made them somebody.
Right.
And I don't know how much you know about that, but technically, the Germs record was the first independent DIY punk band single from LA. So we were kind of treading our own ground in that, and it actually gave them a good calling card. Oh, we got a record, because it really was done. It wasn't done like a business thing. It was more done like, hey, we're all just getting in this and see what happens.
It was really pretty brave, and Forming is an incredibly unique record, especially at the time. I mean, I think most people probably wouldn't even know what to think of it.
I think that's what happened back then.
Yeah. But you guys had the confidence. You guys are like, this is special. This is something. I mean, you're probably throwing 3/4 of your paycheck into it for a while.
Well, the main thing is Darby was, for whatever you hear about him, he was a very gifted lyricist.
Mm-hmm.
And he, without getting into his family and his problems and stuff, he had a very, for his age, a very tough, unique look at the world and how it came out in his writing. And so even though the music isn't what, quote unquote, what we thought punk would, ultimately end up in a year or two, and what they ended up being, because they progressed so much in 6 months, but it always had that lyrical aspect that was very biting.
Yeah, I when people ask me about Germs, by the way, I should probably I'm branded myself. When people ask me about Germs,
There's my germs burn.
oh, you got your germs burn? Who gave you the germs burn?
Michelle Ghaffari
Okay, all right.
at the whiskey. I
And
was sitting I was sitting at the bar with Carlos Caballero of the Dickies, and she just grabbed my arm and burned me.
when did the germs burn thing start to become a thing?
Probably in the summer of '77, or just going into the fall. You see, all this stuff happens so quickly,
Yeah,
and it's hard to pin it exactly down, but it
yeah.
definitely.
But where people are like, okay, now you got to burn me. I want one of those now too. Like, when did that kind of switch over happen?
That was a little later. I think that was the next year.
Okay.
It was more the insiders who got him first.
Okay, so you were right up on that list. You
I,
you,
I
you got a germs burn without knowing it was coming.
exactly.
So, in talking about Darby Crash, what's something you think people really get wrong about Darby?
I think people don't understand that his life was in a very short 22 years. He never actually got to really grow up. We were all young lunatics running around, even at, we weren't the guys going to college and becoming doctors and
Right.
whatever. Um, so what, he was he's very complicated
Mm-hmm.
as a personality. He's very talented. He's very complicated, but he was not a complete person yet. If that makes any sense to you, he hadn't got the maturity to really define all this stuff and figure out uh, what's driving him in certain places and to know really why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem that he gets most of the time is in the day when the Germs played, 3/4 of the time they were kind of the train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
It was just chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And, even when when Iggy was a train wreck, the band was still not a train wreck. There was some cohesion, and he was the one falling apart, where all the pieces, even though talented, they just, didn't have that maturity to, be amazing with
Right.
just him falling apart. But so a lot of people look at him and think, oh, he's just a train wreck. He was a drug user. He was this, that. But he had crazy demons. He had crazy demons, and I'm surprised in some ways when you look back on it. It's surprised he made it as long as he did.
Any thoughts on what those demons were?
Oh, there's plenty. His family was a disaster. He didn't have a good childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it put him in his own world and in his head. And, David Bowie was his favorite outlet, who was very, can be very dreamy or very, Space Oddities, very self-destructive, or not self-destructive, but, the world's fucked up and I'm going to get out of it.
Nihilistic.
Yeah.
On the surface, a lot of people see Darby as this tremendous mess, but you read the lyrics and there's so much depth in there and maybe so much maturity waiting to form.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I could have easily seen him writing books or something, as well as being a lyricist and, creating stories. But, most of his harsher lyrics are out of his harsher life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't want to take the last year of his life because he was a little more fucked up a lot. But the reason he's fucked up is reality was too hard for him.
Did he accept that role that he was starting to step into in terms of a punk statesman at that point? I mean, he was kind of a magnet towards the end.
He was kind of a magnet, yeah. And I think, and this is just me, I think he kind of reached what he thought was his pinnacle and said it was, where am I going to take this?
Mm-hmm.
So there was kind of a doom over his shoulder, shall we say.
So his final act was his way of saying, look, I've given you everything. I don't know what to do next.
Kind of that, but kind of like, I want to stop the pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can talk to probably 5 different people and get a little different piece of all this, but that's kind of what I always felt. He had a very painful childhood. When we hung out, we just we all had whatever good time or whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
We did all kinds of wacky things, but he needed the attention. He needed the attention was sort of the love that he never got, that kind of thing.
Because it seems when you met him, when you were working with him early on, there was hope. There was a project. There was something kind of going on that motivated him, empowered him, which towards the end maybe felt empty to him.
Well, I knew them a couple of years before they actually started the band stuff. So we were friends before that. So we had a little, but yeah, in the end, let's see, that last Starwood show in some ways is almost like his pinnacle. They came out, they played a great show. He was at the top of his game. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. And that record has been repressed multiple times over the years in the What Records label as well as the Aoki label. So this is something that stayed with you over the years. You still control those recordings.
You're talking about Forming, yes.
Forming, yes. Okay.
Yeah. I have Forming. I do have that cassette or have that Sex Boy. I did another version of Forming we did for a compilation, and we did a version of like Around and Round, the old Chuck Berry Boss song done in the arrangement of David Bowie.
And was that on the complete discography? Is that something we've heard before?
Yeah, you've heard all those.
Yeah, okay.
It's on. Well, I put it on what stuffs or what is it or those columns, but it's also on the MIA complete recordings.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So everything you have has been shared. Okay, yes. Excellent. Now, I noticed in the there's the insert for Forming. Did you and the band kind of slide all those together? Was that kind of your job, Chris? What was the DIY?
It was my job to type it up, which there's mistakes in a couple of them, and go get them printed. And it was, I don't know if this will be hysterical to you, but I took it to a printer, and I just typed it on a typewriter here. I want to make copies of this, and I don't know if we laid them out in a few or we just did one at a time. I can't remember now.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy at the printer looked at it and goes, I can't do that. It looks terrible. I can't do that. Just do it, And he did it. But he kept going, I can't do this. But yes, those were all slid in our.
I'm an artist with the Xerox machine. I can't work with this. So you typed it up. You got it printed. You did the folding. You put it all together. The band didn't help you with any of that. That was Chris's job.
They may have helped a little because
Yeah.
I used to hang out with Pat quite frequently, and Darby too. But Pat may have helped some. I don't remember. But yeah, usually it was my job.
Okay, all right. And the lyric sheets differ a little bit. So
Yeah.
you're responsible for the "once more, you morons" line in one of those.
Well, I'm responsible for the typo in one word, and said, oh, I should have printed and go print another one.
Did they put significant effort into writing music at that point?
Well, they were just kind of becoming, they were just kind of. I mean, Pat knew how to play guitar a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but that was the first time that they've ever put something together that they actually wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And, Pat, he doesn't get the credit he should because of some publishing contracts that were signed that we won't talk about,
Okay.
but or whatever. But he really wrote all the music, and Darby wrote all the lyrics, and Pat got X'd out of a lot of that. But at that point, that was a picture of that period of time,
Yeah.
and they progressed very quickly. Because by the end of the year, we had done probably, I don't know if it was October or November, but we did the other two songs, the second forming and you can tell they're already a better band. And then this last single, which wasn't that long after that, and it's like the progression is immediate. It's they're becoming what really became hardcore.
So forming really served its purpose. It got the band on the map. It got them out there. It also brought them to Slash for Lexicon Devil. Was there any discussions about them doing another single on What before that?
We had started recording one, and they were using Nicky Beat as the drummer, who was in the Weirdos at the time, and I was using an acquaintance's had a garage studio, and had been a rain before it, and we had to cancel one day, and then because I guess there was some leakage, and we came in and started recording what would have been Lexicon Devil, and so I don't forgot who got shocked by in the studio, not seriously, but just like, oh shit,
Right.
And Nicky Beat just said, I don't want to do this. And so that just kind of, okay, that was the beginning of our end. There was even a prototype of a sleeve at one point, which I don't have anymore.
Oh, okay. Do you remember what it was?
It was going to be Lexicon Devil too, with close to the same artwork.
Okay, with the flag and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's no fault in there. There's just a matter of circumstances that just kind of like, okay, well, I guess we'll not do this. We'll go forward.
And then when you heard that they were now working with Slash, was there any bad feelings? Was there any discussion about that?
Oh, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I like the people at Slash. Originally, it was Steve Samioff who started the magazine, but then Bob Biggs had bought it, and he's the one who pushed it more music, and we all got along fine.
Okay.
Like I say, the whole thing about this was not that I was starting a label and I wanted to control everything and control your careers or anything like that. It was we were just all learning, and we were all in it sort of basically for each other, and
And you're able to see your friends start to get that prominence. Your thoughts on GI when it came out?
I thought it sounded great. Once again, I think I was supposed to go to one or two of the sessions, but I had to work. But Pat kept telling me all about it, and I thought I thought Pat Burnett, who engineered it, did a great job with them.
Mm.
And Joan Jett is the producer, but Pat Burnett was the kind of the genius of getting it all to sound good.
Right. And then you were also starting to get busy with a few other things. The Dills, or at least the first release looked like the Oils.
Exactly.
Tell us the story of that.
That has a whole story too.
Yeah.
A couple months after the Germs record came out, Peter Urban, who was the manager of the Dills at the time, came to me and said, "We like what you did with the Germs. Would you like to put our record out?" Sure, why not? I guess I'm in this for a longer ride than I
Yeah.
And so that was a funny one because they gave me really crude artwork and I tried to pull it together. And none of us had a lot of money at the time, and so we weren't like, I wasn't great with a razor blade. So
Yeah.
so it came out looking like the sleeve came out looking like the oils, and we looked at it and said, no, we got to change that. And then another funny one though is when I had the record mastered, which I wasn't there for the mastering, we got the test pressing back and they faded the song out before it was done,
Oh, okay.
which is, or, there's only 5 of those in the world at one point or something. And so I had to go back and get that recut, but it was their fault. So, once again, so that was,
Okay. So that test pressing is quite difficult to get.
right.
And that, again, has really stood the test of time. Going back to the John Cazale comment, the Dills, another phenomenal band, and it just kind of just ended up in your lap almost by accident, by fate.
Yeah. If I hadn't done the Germs, it wouldn't have been there.
Now, all these singles that you did with the Dills, the Eyes, the Controllers, those are all, you still kind of manage where those, how those are used, yeah?
Absolutely.
We haven't seen anything like, I think a lot of these are very difficult to get on, say, streaming or to hear unless you're able to go to YouTube.
Oh, well, it's all that stuff should be, I use CD Baby for distribution, and they should have all that stuff up on Spotify and everything else. It's under an album heading called What Stuff.
What stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it's What Stuff. I keep forgetting what is stuff or what is it. I use both for different compilations.
I got Donna Summer Hot Stuff. Hang on a sec. Is it, what is it?
Yeah, try that one.
What is it?
I mean, I could look it up for you, but I'm
No.
I'm too lazy. But you should have it.
Yeah, I haven't been able, maybe it's because I'm in Australia and it's only available in certain territories. That may be it.
It shouldn't. It should be everywhere.
I'll keep looking, but yeah, I did what I thought was a pretty thorough search. Oh well. Okay, so people can enjoy the whole What Records catalog on streaming. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Would there be any thoughts, especially with the vinyl revival of the last decade or two, to be able to reissue something like What Is It? That seems to be quite in demand.
Right now, I still have a 10-inch, which has about half of it on it.
Okay.
I don't, and Cobra Side is the distributor on that, and they move them periodically. But I still, it's one of those things that it's out there, and some of the singles have been reissued a few times and stuff. It's, for me to go in and replay it and make 200 copies is more laborious, shall we say, than it is to do than what you get back for it.
Well, yeah, look, I understand there's a lot of work involved. That compilation has reached kind of a new audience with it being name checked by Kurt Cobain and other people in terms of a very influential record to them. I imagine you'd be able to go through far more than 200 if you did a reissue.
Okay. I may even have the mothers somewhere.
Okay.
Now when you saw Fat Mike's display for the Germs, you saw a couple of my plates in there.
I did. You donated those to the museum? Oh, that's great. I want to go in there with some liquid hot wax and make myself another cup, press them out. So that is the plates of the very first independently released punk record, even probably just punk record out of Los Angeles.
It's actually one of the reissues, but yes, it's not the original plates, but yeah.
Okay.
But it's still for them close enough, shall we say.
Fair enough. What other stuff did you share in the Punk Rock Museum?
Oh my. Well, he was really mostly interested in Germs, and I sent him some Dills stuff. I sent him records, I think, of some stuff. We didn't, a sad but true story. Many years ago, I used to have negatives and a proof sheet for the first Germs photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
and someone came to my house and stole them,
Oof.
and I never got them back. And I know the person died years ago, so there's no way of ever seeing them. And they went to the East Coast on top of it. And I believe the negative that was used for for the forming single, the front photo, I believe that was in there too, and that got stolen because Teresa, who shot that photo, uh, we we've been through this, and I said, I don't know if I gave it back to you or it got stolen, but I don't have it.
Okay. So
She has the whole shoot except for the 5 photos or 7 photos that were on that one strip.
Oh, okay. So all the reissues since the early days, even the Superior Viaduct and some of the others, they had to use a copy or a picture of the picture of forming, not
Right.
access to the proper negative. Okay. All right. There's another reason to get an original pressing, kids. Are you surprised? Like, what are your feelings about like seeing what the legacy of the band and your label has done?
Well, the label is, it's a thing that I've done enough, stuff and other stuff beyond it, but that it it's interesting the long lasting longevity of it. It I mean it's it's I'm old enough for now where it's not the big ego boost or anything like that, but it is very nice for the ego.
Mm-hmm.
But I I I I love the fact that I was part of something that the path is crazy, but Pat's in the Foo Fighters. He's doing great. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like being part of that. It's kind of like, and other things that happened to me in the years, since those days. But I've always been not intentionally, but an enabler somehow to have things be something. Where I wasn't the one, but I was part of the path till they got somewhere.
Yeah, it's got to be very satisfying to be able to see the impact that your butterfly wings had on the situation, right? And more than that, you were a facilitator. You were a co-equal of the band. You just didn't have an instrument. Your instrument was, manufacturing these things.
Right. It's gratifying, and it's nice to see that people care.
100%. You've had a
I,
tremendous impact.
and when you're doing stuff, you don't think about it. You're doing, you know what I mean? And I'm still doing stuff to this day, so I don't. But I'm more reflective. I'm obviously more reflective on what happened with Darby because at the time it was bone crunching and it was uh, and you ask why, and then you start realizing when you mature a little more that, oh well, yeah, what was like crazy then was, oh, that was really fucked up, so that's why he was like he was,
Yeah.
without being specific, but and we were all kind of misfits, so you know because there really, at our ages, there really wasn't punk rock. It hadn't existed yet. The Ramones had barely touched. The Sex Pistols had barely touched. If so, like I always tell people, when I was high school, there was no such thing as punk rock. So we were, the early LA scene, but as misfits, and then that's why there's all these diversified kinds of music, from the screamers to the Germs to Black Flag to whoever. Everybody had this little different thing, but it was all rooted in stuff before it. Now, 10 years later, everybody was rooted in this stuff, and they took it wherever they took it.
Yeah. Well, I think in some degree, we all build on the shoulders of giants. But to be able to recognize that early on and to be able to take those risks, that's a huge credit. I mean, if back in 77, when this was happening, to hear what was happening with Germs. They're practicing and them coming together. Most people, I would suggest, would not be willing to put most of their money and time behind a band like that and thinking, oh, I'm going to recoup something. It was just, it seems to be not a Hail Mary, but something that is, you feel it in your gut and you go with it. You take that chance and you've been rewarded by having a front row seat on this amazing train ride.
Well, I've been lucky in a few different train rides and a few different things, but
I noticed Pat played on a lot of other projects as well. The Martyrs, the Tidal Waves. He was kind of one of your right-hand people.
You got a Tidal Waves. You scare me.
Well,
Before I learned how not, that was a good lesson. I'm not getting the vocal quite right. It needed to be humorous, and it didn't. The humor didn't come out, but the monotone out of tuneness did. So it didn't come off right.
Again, I'll go back to the John Cazale. If it's on What Records, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
The Martyrs, I'd actually like that record.
Yeah. So you almost had kind of like he was almost like a fill-in musician for you. Hey, I got a project here. We're going to do another record here.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, I need someone to play guitar. Here's $50. Or, back in the day, $50 actually meant something.
So you still have the plates for the original single from the Monarch pressing, right?
I think so. Because there was one issue where I reissued that at one point with Rainbow. And in the 94 earthquake, they lost a lot of plates in the earthquake. And that may have been the mothers on that may have gone with that. I can't remember now. Which is why that the ones that Fat Mike has is a later issue.
Right. Okay. That may be the closest you have. You don't know if those original plates still exist.
Yeah.
Do you have anything personal of Darby's still in your collection? And I'll give you here in Australia, I've got a friend of mine who Bon Scott used to be good mates with, and he would stay over at his house while he was in town because Bon would only be in Sydney for a couple days here or there. And he left a bag of stuff before he went to the UK, and Bon never came back. So he's just got all these clothes and weird personal things of Bon's. He's not sure what to do with. Do you have anything like that? Any ephemera from Darby?
Not at this point, no. Not that I can think of.
Okay. Didn't leave a bag of underwear at your house or anything?
No.
Okay.
He may have left some vomiting in the singing person.
He left you with a good scar there. Or no, that's Lorna, actually. Very good. The Dills have a very interesting moment in history, that Up in Smoke appearance. The guitarist, I don't know the guitarist's name of the Dills.
Chip Kinman.
He had that guitar decorated with black electrical tape, right, which I understand it was a primary influence of Eddie Van Halen, seeing that and then starting to use that visual on his own guitars. Are you aware of that?
I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't heard that story before, but I wouldn't be surprised because, those guys used to dress up like punks and come down to punk shows.
Mm-hmm.
The Van Halen guys. There's actually a picture of them in an alley in a Slash magazine. If you've seen that, I don't know. So everybody kind of knew a lot of stuff was going on around and what was going on around it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And LA is a big city. Bigger than Sydney.
Oh. It is. No, absolutely. But the clubs that were there, the Starwood, Gazzari's, the whiskey. Yeah, it's still kind of pretty concentrated there. So if something was happening, it wouldn't surprise me that others from different scenes would be curious.
Well, the Sunset Strip was a very and around that area, West Hollywood was a very magnetic area in those days for music. And the Roxy and all that stuff. So a lot of bands that obviously weren't big were coming to shows or hanging out and seeing what's going on. but they were from Pasadena, as I believe. So that was, it was a little bit of a hoof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a huge one, but with LA traffic, it is.
I'm always fascinated with people who are like, oh, that was in Orange County. This was Hollywood. I'm like, it's really not that far physically, but
with traffic, it is. That's the funny part about it. The there was kind of waves of punk in the early days. There was sort of the Hollywood mass scene, whatever, sort of that 77 till the end of 77 period.
Mm-hmm.
And then the South Bay, which was Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, those guys started creeping up, and San Pedro, of course, with the Minutemen, and that was kind of the 78 to 79 wave, Black Flag and those guys, and they were different waves, and then the 78, 79 into 80 was starting the Orange County stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The Agent Oranges and all that stuff. So it was kind of these waves of things, and they were all different in their own way, but they're all influenced by the whole thing.
Well, Chris, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
It was great to meet you.
Thanks again, Chris. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Oh man, what a lovely dude. We got to do a part 2. He has so many stories. There's only so much we could get to in the time we had. And unfortunately, I scheduled this conversation the morning that I had a record fair coming up. So we only had about 90 minutes to do what we needed to do. And by the way, there's a whole nother half hour of fascinating conversations up at patreon.com/vinyl guide. Head up there now and listen to the conversation. Help support this podcast, and you get all the extras. Well, that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, huge thanks to everyone who's sharing these episodes on social media, putting them in Reddit forums and Facebook groups. That's hugely appreciated. Also, those of you who are leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, well, that warms my cockles too, whatever those are. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, you all behave yourselves. And thanks for listening to the Vinyl Guide podcast. Cheers.